this is Cindy. Thank you for joining me for another session, sorry, of Quilting by Cindy with Moose and Henry, who are sleeping on the floor, or laying on the floor right now. So we've been talking about the t-shirt quilt that I'm working on. So you can see here I have laid it out on the bed. I've got all the pieces sewed together. We have I've measured everything. So like I said, I was trying to do 18 inches wide. It's roughly, it was in theory 100 inches long. I think it's longer than that now, but you'll see some inserts, pictures that I included. I laid them all out on the bed because I was trying to make sure that when I was doing the columns together that I was trying not to line up all, I don't want the red next to the red. I don't want orange next to, there is a lot of black, which is unavoidable, but I was trying to rearrange. So that's something you can do when you're planning, whether you're doing the rows or columns or you're just doing the individual squares. Lay down in your bed or floor or whatever you have handy to take a look and rearrange as needed. Come up here so you can say hi. Come on, hurry up, come on. There, okay, see hi, see, see? It's Moose, he has to participate always. All right, go back. What I was gonna show you, so when I laid it out, and there'll be little inserts you can see, when I laid it out, I found that one of them was way longer and one of them was short. So luckily on this piece, there was one of the little short panels for, it had a, I think it was a pocket logo, or, just a tiny one on the chest. So I stripped it out. So you'll see here what I've done is I've pulled it, oops, look, my pins are coming apart. I just removed it and I'm just going to piece these two back together, but I didn't want to sew it yet. I just wanted to show you. So I had pulled it out of here. So let me fix this pin real quick so that I can lay it flat and show you now how it looks. Pin. And this is where I went back and was telling you guys about the interfacing. So because I did not want to go back and do interfacing, which I probably should have, and I don't know how well you can see, but you'll see how it's rolling. That's just because there's not enough stability to keep it flat. So normally I don't bother to pin anything, but I've been pinning here because I'm trying to keep it flat. So that when I go to sew it, that it'll stay where it needs to be for us to do stuff. So if you're bad like me and you stick pins in your mouth, don't stick the pointy end in your mouth. Stick the other end in. You will jab yourself otherwise. I have done it because I do it without thinking. They also have these cool nifty little, not that I have one, but a nifty little pin pad or pin cushion that has like a wrist thing. So you can just slap it on your wrist and you can just stick them in here instead of putting them in your mouth, which is a better way to do it. Safety first. So anyways, so on this one, so I had to jury rig my bedroom so that I could lay all 5 panels out. But I'm just going to overlay this just so we can get an idea. So now, before I sew it, I just wanted to make sure that was it short enough? Was it still too long? Do I need to shorten something? So now, and I don't think you guys can see it that well, but now it just touches the floor, which is where the rest of the things touch. So let me come on this side. So this was the one here. So this is the piece I took out of that one. So again, I just sort of pinned it for now. Originally I was going to put it on the bottom until I realized the bottom is black and I didn't want to do black on black. It's just me, my aesthetics. So again, sort of lined it up with the top just to make sure now. And now on this one as well, I can see that it touches the floor. So as you can see down here at the bottom, it all sort of lines up now, where before one was really short and the other one was down out. So that's why you always lay it out to make sure things look right. So it's now the perfect length. And as you can see here, while there is some colors near each other, for the most part, there is color separation. You don't have to do that. That's just me and my weird neuroticness, OCD, whatever you want to call it, that I don't like. So now, at this point, I am going to, I'll sew the pieces where I separated it, and then I will sew the two, I keep saying rows, the two columns together, and then the front of the quilt will be done. Hooray. We can pause. All right, so as I said, we're ready to go almost. All the dust. Okay, so I'm just going to do these up real quick while we're chatting. Oh, dang it. Hey, Moose, what are you doing? There's no food there, go. It's like, I know there's food. His food dish is on the floor near there, on the floor there, so he's looking for any tasty treats he might have missed that went under the filing cabinet. Okay, so we're getting close to the end of finishing the front side, which is very exciting. And you might notice the color difference. I actually used up all my black thread, but since it's hiding, I just gonna use the rest of it in yellow. Because the back, it'll look fine on that, so I only have these couple things to do, so I'm not as worried about it. But I don't remember if I told you about this, but I'll turn it around so you can see real quick. So it's always good when you start stitching, like mine has an automatic thing to go in reverse. So it just sort of helps anchor it when you're sewing, it's less likely when it comes that it's going to come apart because you've anchored, you went back and forth on both ends. So it helps keep the integrity of it. So I don't know if I mentioned it before, but it's always good to do. You don't have to, especially if you're using more complex stitches. Like I'm just using a single stitch. So I always make sure I back up. But I have some that are like zigzag, some that do like 3 stitches in one spot and then moves to the next spot. So it just makes it stronger. I just tend to use a single one so I don't worry about it. Always have your little thing handy so if you've pinned, you can pull them out and throw them in there and not have them scattered about, because you could have a dog like mine that likes to seal pins and eat them for some reason because he's a dummy if I let them drop. So again, you'll probably be slower than this. I've just been doing it enough times that I know my machine. And you'll pick up speed as well as you're doing things. It's just a matter, just like anything, it's going to be a rote? I think that's the right one to use. Repetitive. It's going to be the repetitive stuff will sink in. You'll just get used to doing it. Perfect timing. Look at that. That's a fluke. That rarely happens. Like then my bobbin ran out, but I made it to the end. Usually it dies in the middle and then I have to start all over. So, but luckily I already have some gold lined up. So we will quickly swap this out. So now on this one, you'll be able to see, where did I add it? Oh, so now we've now, this one's a direction, so I see it in the right direction. So this had the black strip that I removed. So now it's all set to add to the main quilt. And then we will do the other side real quick. And then I won't bore you in doing the rest of it. Next time I'll show you the finish of this, and then I'll work on the back to show you that. But this time we're going to do, what's at the top? I'll then talk about the handkerchief quilt that I'm doing next and show you how I'm going to do that. Like I said, you can use the interfacing, the interfacing to make this easier on yourself. I always like a challenge, so, you know, oops. Put my little thing back together. There we go. So, I'll start up real quick. Talked about this to you guys before, but whenever you have seams, you can do a number of things. So like here, I just sewed over it. You can, it's up to you. It depending what you're doing. Usually I think I almost said recipes. Most of the patterns, if you're using a pattern, will tell you to iron it flat. You can finger press it flat by just sort of flattening out and rubbing it with your fingers. But a lot of times it will just naturally sort of lay one way or the other, and I tend to just zip over it in whatever direction it is. But if it's something that is good, you know, that might be thin, whatever you're working on, whether it's quilt or whatever, clothes, I think it's more on the clothes. So like you don't want to see a weird bump on your shoulder seam because you didn't flatten it out. So, so just something to keep in mind when you're doing it. Not necessarily, not as critical for quilts as far as I'm concerned, because it's going to have fluff anyway, so it's not as noticeable. Let's see, now I'm struggling to keep this flat because I didn't put interfacing. And I did not pin that right. And you'll notice as you go, so you didn't see me doing it ahead of time, but I went through, and when I was piecing the columns together, I started at the top and worked my way down, and there'll be a couple inserts showing. This had a significant gap, these two that I'm fixing now, but two of them were shy just an inch or two. And by luck, I either didn't have a border on either the top or the bottom, so I just added it to compensate so that it's all the same length. Depending what you're doing, like because some of these are like here, you know, there's a pattern. So technically, if this was too long, because there's sort of dead space here, it's just all black, the actual, if you can see it that well, the actual pattern on the print only goes to about here. So there's a couple inches. I really could have shortened this if it was too long, but this was one of the ones that was too short. So, but if it's just a solid, you know, regular fabric, you know, like this or something where you can just shorten it without it being noticeable, or lengthen it, or even if it goes over a little, it's not as critical, you can trim it. But when there's patterns that you're trying to match up, or it's something like this where you have a picture and you're trying to preserve it, then you just sort of, you know, trim it if you can, otherwise make the other ones longer. You know, if you already sewed a border on, which is what I did on something earlier, and I realized it was too short, so you just get your seam ripper, rip it out, and add a second piece that's thicker to compensate for it, which is why I did it in groups. So I did one column at a time, trying to keep the length the same. But it is hard to gauge, especially since all of these were different sizes, to keep them a same size. The handkerchief one that I'm going to show you in next is a little easier because it's a set size and they're all the same size, so it's much easier when you're planning and measuring and whatnot. And it doesn't hurt, like you'll see here. There's a little bit of an overlap. That's fine. This was not cut quite evenly, and you'll see that. But now, voila, and hopefully I didn't. It's like, I hope I pinned it on the right direction, because then I would have to undo it again. So now, these are ready to add to the big one, but I will not show you that. I will show you the final result on that next time. Thank you.